what?
What did I do? What did I do?
Is this yours? Yeah, that's mine, but you can have it if you want.
No, it's not gonna help me.
Oh, okay. Oh, you need your, oh,
He needs
oh
to-
dear.
It's
We
like-
can just
It's
resize
like the
the.
master.
I need the big. Okay. All right.
Come on, Molly.
Good morning, everybody. Hey, look, we're right on time. It's just 11. Woo! All right, go ahead. Take it away, darling girl, Kavita, Miss
Precious.
Precious. Oh, I didn't even pass out the sheets.
So
They're in the
with your eyes open, we're going
the
to
other one.
practice refuge with our eyes open. And with the intention of in the backs of our minds recollecting that the purified appearance that they talk about, that is the purified appearance that you seek, that we aspire to actualize as Buddhist practitioners, is right there, right here, right now. And so this is the thought we're practicing, where this is sort of a conceptual, it's like a analytical meditation that we're beginning our refuge with. So again, so in that way, with your eyes open, imagine yourself on sense faculties, with sense faculties that you don't currently have or are not using due to your condition, your current state of existence. But regardless, if you had other sense faculties, you would see permeating everything before you and around you, you would see purified emanations of light, sort of the purified, exalted realm that coexists. But we unfortunately, due to our habitual propensities, cannot see. But there it is, it's right there. It's as like one of those interesting, those two-dimensional paintings or pieces that will often see in our lives where you have to look at it a certain way. But once you do look at it a certain way, then you can always see, the face of Jesus in it, or, whatever the thing is. I hope you all know what I'm referring to. So it's just
Possible.
Where?
It's the cat is looking in the window way up top.
Oh,
So this is what we're doing. We're recollecting that this purified realm, inhabited by Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, free of contamination, free of suffering, all permeated with truth, with beauty, with morality, with goodness and love and caring. That's coexisting with the world that we're conditioned to at the moment. And that's the world that is not subject to, once you see it, you can't unsee it. So with that in mind, that's the world, that's the realm that surrounds us, that's the realm we're in. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are there surrounding us. The beings that we are in the presence of are enlightened beings. We ourselves are destined to complete enlightenment and participating in this glorious manifest. So we ourselves are taking a moment as we get ready to take refuge to imagine what they call the resultant state. We have arrived. We're We're abiding in refuge as if we have completed the work of this path and are now just fully plugged into the uncontaminated, glorious existence of reality. And that's our refuge. Until I am enlightened, I take refuge in the Buddha's, the Dharma, and the Sangha through the positive potential I create by listening to teaching and the other paramitas. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha through the positive potential I create by listening to teachings and the other paramitas. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha through the positive potential I create by listening to teachings and the other paramitas. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. And refresh your visualization of this resultant purified realm. Good morning. It's all around us. It is this state of being that we are striving to actualize. And within that realm of uncontaminated cooperation with reality, all sentient beings, having abandoned attachment and aversion, having abandoned delusions, all sentient beings have also likewise attained this resultant state of lasting happiness and full participation in the unfolding of the cosmos as it is. All sentient beings have abandoned their grasping and delusion. All sentient beings surrounding us are abiding in this pure, uncontaminated state, this resultant state that all of us together, hand in hand, heart to heart, are moving towards. So as we prepare to say the four immeasurables, recall that no matter what appearance may arise to your awareness now, with regard to, quote, others, keep in mind, never let yourself, as a practitioner, hold firm to the recollection that all sentient beings are, especially the ones you're aware of in this lifetime, whether they're near you or far, even if you only see them in the news, you have a strong karmic connection with the beings that are with you in this lifetime. And all of us are abiding in the mandala of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who's come to this world. And if the more strongly we choose to participate in this movement of love, compassion, and deep wisdom about how things do exist, the closer our hearts dial into the mandala of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. This is what we came here to participate in. So with that in mind, without any bias, regardless, every single being that's alive and participating in your, quote, world at this time, may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that is free suffering. And may all sentient beings abide from equanimity, free from attachment for the and hatred for others. Remembering that the freedom from attachment, grasping attachment and bias and hatred, the bias of hatred, those are the very mental conditions that keep us trapped in cyclic existence. And if we are to liberate ourselves through this practice, we must, moment by moment, apply the remedies to this disgusting habit of bias. And you may need to work on this in a special way at this time, because I think we're sharing an appearance of a world that seems to be quite chaotic and turmoil. And that's actually a wonderful thing. Change cannot happen on an individual level if nothing changes. There you have it. But it's our job to completely immerse ourselves in the energy that has been set into motion by Buddha, by the Bodhisattvas. If we're to be authentic practitioners, this is one existence. There is no segregation between your quote spiritual life and your everyday life. And so when we say these four measurables, this is where we're meant to abide. And so I ask you all to make a special effort to refrain from hatred and anger. This is not the same as accepting harming. This is use the tools that we're given, especially what Christopher's going to be covering today. Use these tools in your everyday life to do the thinking needed to liberate yourself and others eventually. Do not participate in the continued generation of samsara. Pull yourself out of that machine. That's why we do this practice. So refresh your visualization that's right here of the merit field. And gratitude, out of gratitude for the profound transformation that is possible if we'll only willingly plunge ourselves into the practice. We say the 7-limb prayer with complete joy and enthusiasm towards all of this great Dharma. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offering, actual and mentally transformed. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginning this time, and rejoice in the merits of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until samsara ends, turning the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. And I dedicate the merit created by myself and others. What do I dedicate the merit?
Created by myself and
Created by myself and others.
Others
To
to
the
great
great.
enlightenment.
I just got distracted by my own thinking that the great enlightenment, your refuge is only complete. I'm going to say this. This is what the teachers say. Your refuge is authentic. As authentic as your wish for all sentient beings to be liberated and enlightened with actual loving kindness. Think of all the, just for a moment, cast aside any doubts about what I'm about to say. Just say, there are sentient beings, conscious beings inhabiting myriad realms, unlimited sentient beings. You are in this world with the sense faculties to share an experience with the beings that are here right now. And as such, you are incredibly close. Your relationship with all the sentient beings that you can see and hear and communicate with and read about in this world right now, you have an incredibly strong karmic connection. Love that. Love that. Okay, and then we're going to offer the resultant stage. We're going to say this in English, the mandala offering. Again, we're in the mandala that was cast by His Holiness when he took birth in this world for us and with us. Open your eyes and see the uncontaminated coexisting that you and all sentient beings share. The fundamental ground is scented with incense, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru. the four continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine it as a Buddha field and offer it. And may all sentient beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamyaya. Now just kind of remember all the sentient beings, enlightened and otherwise, who you share this existence with. Amazing. All of it.
Okay, thank you. Today's teaching was it's a transcription of the second to the last session that Geshe Nima gave. The last session was when we took Bodhisattva vows, those of us who chose to. So this particular session is on practicing the perfection of wisdom. And we may not get through all of this today, and that's not a problem. We will get through it one way or the other. So let's just get right into it. I read a little bit of this last week, but I'll cover it again. The last practice of the perfections, the paramitas, is the perfection of wisdom. You may recall it's generosity, ethical discipline, patience, enthusiastic or joyous effort, meditative concentration, and wisdom, the practice of wisdom. In the Reign of Accomplishments text, the last two stanzas are about wisdom, the wisdom understanding the empty nature of reality. That means the mindfulness of emptiness. This is also divided into two parts. One is in the formal meditation part. The other is the post-meditation part. In the formal meditation part, we think that each and everything has an empty nature, no matter what. And then in the post-meditation part, we just think, although all phenomena and persons appear to me as if they absolutely exist with an intrinsic nature, they actually don't exist the way they appear to me. So, for example, the moon's reflection will clearly appear on a body of still water at nighttime, but no one believes that the moon's reflection is actually the moon. But then in our day-to-day life experience, although we intellectually know one single cause doesn't create each and everything, we point at all persons and phenomena as if they absolutely exist inherently from their own side as objective realities. That means whatever event or phenomenon appears to us, it appears to exist absolutely or intrinsically as an objective reality, rather than as a dependently arising phenomenon. An understanding of emptiness helps us reduce these illusory, deceptive appearances. We've mentioned this before. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking to Geshe Nima, and he said, there is no objective reality. And so what you have to then consider is that if there's no objective reality, what is that saying about our subjective reality? So a subject, we all of us have a subjective reality. But in order for us to have a subjective reality, a subject must have an object. So what appears to us objectively is a play of the non-duality of subject and object. So we know this. Each being has a slightly different appearance of the world, especially if you're talking different species. They're not even slightly different. As we talked about, I remember with Claudia, the housefly has a completely different appearance than we do, completely different kind of brain. And so a very, very different experience. So you can't even say that even on the physical level, there's any kind of subjective and objective reality. It is non-dual based on the interplay of the subject and object. This is why it's so important for us to be studying this, studying emptiness, studying the practice of these perfections, because this is the way we change our subjective view of the objective world. And as we change our subjective view, the objective world for us changes. So this is the nature of what we're dealing with, and it sort of flies in the face of how we're all raised and trained in this existence, that this stuff really is out here the way it appears to us. And Buddhism is saying, no, not really, not really. All of this can change. All our experience of it can change. Everything is impermanent. So that's the starting point for this particular session. And I'll read this. I read this one thing last week. Buddha Shakyamuni said in the Sutra on Dependent Arising, if you see dependent arising, you see Dharma. If you see Dharma, you see the Buddha, the Tathagata. So if you see dependent arising, if we see that everything arises due to causes and conditions dependently, not independently, but interdependently, then we will get an inkling, an understanding of what the Buddha was talking about when the Buddha was talking about emptiness, that everything is empty of an independent nature. That means everything has a dependent nature, interdependent nature. So if we see things as existing dependently or interdependently, then we see Dharma, which means truth. We see the truth. When we see things existing as dependent arisings, we're seeing the truth. And when we see the truth, then we see the Buddha. We see what Buddhahood is, what it's about. Having the Tathagata means one who has thus gone from an illusory existence of objective reality and subjective reality, but they're not, they're dualistic. The Buddha has gone from that appearance to seeing everything as non-dualistic. In other words, very, very fluid, emptiness. So that's what that line is saying. If you see dependent arising, you see Dharma, you see the truth. If you see Dharma, the truth, you see the Buddha, the Tathagata, one that has thus gone. Okay, so now we'll go on. When we study emptiness, this is the actual transcription of Geshe Nima. When we study emptiness, we study it through dependent origination or dependent arising, the interdependent nature of all phenomena. Through that, we try to understand emptiness, what emptiness means. The understanding of emptiness must support the understanding of dependent arising, or interconnectedness, or interdependence. When we study interdependence, this supports our understanding of emptiness. If our study of emptiness never helps us understand dependent arising or interdependence, then our understanding of emptiness is wrong and mistaken. So these two understandings support each other. They go together. Emptiness, interdependence. Emptiness, dependent arising. Emptiness, dependent origination. We learn emptiness in this way. We study the interdependent nature of the world, or dependent arising, and then we get close to the understanding of emptiness. When we study emptiness, we get close to an understanding of the interdependent nature of the world. Instead of negating each and everything in our mind, what it does is it helps us to connect to each and every thing and sentient being. This is because our happiness is connected to others. Without connecting with others and depending upon them, we couldn't survive for even one day. And I thought, well, sure we could, but if you take it to its full meaning, we couldn't. Everything we have, everything we put in our mouth, everything we experience is because of other sentient beings. The very body we have that we experience through is because of other sentient beings. If they didn't exist, we wouldn't. We just wouldn't. So this is quite a true statement when you take it to its fullest import. Other sentient beings are very, very important in our life. They are part of our life. If we harm others, we're harming ourselves. Many people say, I will harm them. I am defeating them. I will destroy them. Many people say this, but destroying others destroys yourself. When we destroy others, we destroy ourselves. An interdependent perspective always reminds us that we should live happily together, amicably, and be friendly. This creates happiness for us and happiness for others. Benefit for us, benefit for others. When we're talking about you and me, if there's no you, there's no me. If there's no me, there's no you. Me and you are just labels that depend on each other. It just has labels. Me has no meaning without you. You has no meaning without me. They are interdependent. We are interdependent. You and me. Lama Tsongkhapa and many great Indian and Tibetan masters from different traditions explain that whenever the label you appears in our mind, we think you has an independent nature. We never connect the label you with our own happiness. You know, you did this, you did that, you did this. We never connect it with our own happiness. You is never connected in our mind with my well-being. So we can often deny another's well-being. We can overlook another's well-being. When we recognize how you and me are connected, we would never overlook that. We would realize that our happiness lies in recognizing and helping others with their well-being. If we understand that our well-being is connected to others, we'll never harm others. We'll never look down on others. This ties in so perfectly with what Kavita was talking about, and the particular where we find ourselves on the planet right now, especially in this country, but I think it's worldwide. I don't know what you'd call it, utter chaos. And this is actually a perfect opportunity for us as Buddhist practitioners to practice to really, really practice. You know, take what's flying in our face and apply these techniques and practices and thoughts to this. Naturally, in our mind, we will know that our well-being is part of others' well-being, part of our neighbor's well-being, part of society's well-being, part of the country's well-being. So we should always value others. And Geshe Nima is not just talking about other humans, other people, others, the whole planet of beings and phenomena. You know, there's a movement now in studies in consciousness that is recognizing that perhaps even plants are conscious beings, and of course, I don't disagree with that. I mean, all the experiments that have been done and observations that have been made would lead you to believe that there is a sentience happening there among the trees, among the grass, everywhere, right? So it all is part of what we're connected to. If we value each other, then in our mind, we'll feel close to each other. If we abuse each other, although we may live in the same room, we'll be very distant from each other. And through that, create lots of suspicion between us, and sometimes we'll quarrel and fight. But human nature is interdependent. Human nature is compassionate. We are by nature that. Many Indian scholars and masters explain that each and everything is interconnected. Each event involves different kinds of causes and conditions. We can't blame one cause for anything. For example, if we go to the market and someone abuses or hurts us or yells at us or gives us a dirty look or whatever, we immediately get angry and we think that person is hurting me. We don't think of the driving force that's behind this event. We just think, it's affecting me. We don't think of what's behind the event. There are many, many causes and conditions that caused the person to act in an abusive way. If we think about the interdependent nature of all causes and conditions, then even if someone tries to kill us, instead of feeling anger and hatred or wanting to take revenge against them, this kind of perspective helps us to develop the special wisdom to check what is going on behind the event. This reminds me of what are the verses of mind training? Is that the little yellow book? There's something in there about even if somebody tries to kill me, you know, see them as, you know, as
Someone we love and care about.
someone we love and care about, right? Try to understand what's going on behind the event. We may not know why this person is engaged in hurting or bullying us, so we never give in to negative emotions. Usually, when someone shows anger toward us, we show anger toward them in return. That's kind of our default. That means we are supporting our negative emotion. We are supporting our afflictive emotions when we do that, supporting them. Although we consider negative emotion to be the real inner enemy, if someone shows us anger and we show anger back, then we are supporting our inner enemy. It's important to remember that. It's hard in the moment, but if we practice with that thought, you know, during the post-anger states or in between, so when the next situation arises where we could respond with anger, we go, wait a minute, I'm supporting my afflictive emotions when I do this. I'm supporting my own inner enemy if I respond to this person. It could be this person very close to you who you love, but you know how we get it in arguments and get angry at one another. But just sort of back off. I mean, the first thing to do is how Rabina Corton will say, just zip your lip. Keep your hands to yourself. You may be raging inside, but just don't go any further than that with it. And try to look at your mind. Try to look at, wow, this is my own inner enemy that's raging inside of me here.
I was thinking about, like in an argument, and you can apply this at every level, but let's say you and I are arguing about whether or not to rent a convertible in Italy, right?
Oh no, let's do it. I want to argue about that.
This is very
And I'd say,
specific.
no, we have to, blah, 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 and you say, no, you're wrong, and I say, no, you're wrong. Well, you could take something more profound, but
Mhm.
in the argument, there's a dependence. I have to be right and you have to be wrong, and similarly, you have to be, in your point of view, right, and I have to be wrong.
And never shall the twain meet.
And so, when one gets angry, and it's obviously best to practice this in things that are not particularly consequential, but that we all have experienced nonetheless, that we get, it's incredible that tiny things we get angry. Somebody
Right.
cuts us off, not because they're trying to get in a car accident, but because they didn't notice us. And we get angry as if like, how dare they? Well, you know, so we flip them the bird, then that makes them angry. Well, we've
Right.
just escalated
Yeah.
for no good reason. So we're creating a I'm right, you're wrong,
This is how
you're right, I'm wrong dependence.
That's how all
You could
wars.
apply it to the political screen, the political stuff, you know, my way of achieving, you know, a good society is right. No, yours is wrong and mine's right. No, yours is
What
wrong
this
and
all
mine's
comes
right.
down to is self-centeredness. The self-centered me and mine.
Ego grasping.
Me and mine.
But there's
And
this
so-
weird, someone has to be wrong for you to be right.
Well,
Yeah,
me and
right.
mine is always right.
Right. It's just a
That's the way it works.
And you know,
Unless
unless
unless there is the case where you then turn it inwards toward yourself and you hate yourself, and that's what depression is.
no.
You turn it in on yourself and you become depressed, and that's as bad or worse because you're hating yourself. And what one of the things that he talked about, I think it was last week, is you are insulting your own potential, your own Buddha nature by doing that. By being depressed and hating yourself, we should recognize we're insulting our capacity to change. Very difficult to do when you're in the depths of depression. It's important to think about these things now, though, when we're not.
Yeah.
No.
I know we haven't covered this in recent years, but if you have a chance, all of y'all listening, another tool for this is look up and read about what's called the 8 worldly dharmas. These are the 8 societal triggers that we're all highly subject to. And once you look at them and understand them, you'll go, oh, because it'll explain everything you're seeing in the world.
They are absolutely, as these 8 worldly dharmas are as relevant today as they were in the time of the Buddha.
It's totally what goes on
Completely
with human
what is
society. In human society.
Yeah, somebody has a question? Yeah, Kevin.
Yeah, Christopher, I just wanted to say on that point, for those of you who might have a connection with Rabina and might have access to Spotify, Rabina has 4 separate teachings. There, I would guess, maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours on the 8 worldly dharmas, and they are fabulous.
I'm sure they are, yeah. She'd be oh my God, she'd be the perfect one to listen to. Oh,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think Rabina is a fantastic teacher, and actually Rabina was our first connection to practicing Buddhism. We heard her on a podcast way back when in the early 2000s and went, wow, who is this? What is this? And that led us to find Lama Pasang here in San Antonio.
Good. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Check out Ravina's talks on the 8 worldly dharmas. Venerable Ravina.
So continuing, if we really want to support our own compassionate nature, and defeat our true enemy, then when someone is angry at us, we just react calmly and never destroy our inner peace. We are very careful. So when someone's angry with us, we should go, be very, very careful. Do not let this trigger your own inner enemy, the anger. So when we study,
Yeah.
Another question?
Someone says,
Could somebody give me the a link or how to look up the teachings from Venerable Rabina, please?
Yeah, I'll find them and put them in the chat. Will that work for you, Kay?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm really having a problem, and I would like to ask about it, but this isn't all about me. So maybe if I can read, I can get an idea of what to do.
Well, feel free to ask.
Well,
Hey, can I ask I got a question.
Okay.
How do you get to Rabina's eight worldly dharmas?
Yeah,
But that was the.
I'm looking it up and I'll.
Okay.
Okay.
I hit the wrong button. Okay, thanks.
Kevin mentioned in Spotify, but it's probably also on YouTube. Just hold on. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So when we study about emptiness, we shouldn't feel that it means nothing matters because it's empty, and therefore we should neglect each and everything because it's empty. Instead, our study of emptiness helps us understand the different layers of the interdependent nature of the world, and this makes us connect to others even more. For example, we may feel very close to our parents or siblings because we understand that naturally we depend on them very heavily. From the time we're babies, we naturally depend on them very heavily, our family. We never try to destroy the thing or person upon which we depend heavily. Similarly, in this world, whether we recognize other people or don't recognize other people, if we understand our well-being is connected with them directly or indirectly, we naturally have some idea to cherish them or value them or treasure them. Whenever His Holiness the Dalai Lama gives teachings on emptiness, he says dependent arising or interdependence is connected with our own well-being. When he talks about compassion, he says this is also connected with our own well-being. Many people have the idea that compassion and dependent arising are just related with the outer world and phenomena, or something else, but not connected with our own well-being and happiness. Also, many people think compassion means helping others, that it's not about our own peace and happiness. This is a wrong idea, because when we generate compassion toward others, immediately, we experience peace and an openness in our own mind. We can understand by our own experience when we extend some sort of compassion toward, say, old people or compassion to those who are around us. The result of generating this compassion is that in our mind,
You're all dressed nice. Oh, crap.
well, I'm glad they're all dressed nice.
What? Number 6.
Oh, wow.
Somebody needs to mute themselves.
Bag.
Yeah.
Show it.
Somebody's on an
Blah, 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 blah,
iPhone,
blah, blah,
and
blah.
I can't.
How was your workout?
So you always stick my hat.
My patient is in the hospital.
No.
I think it's the,
Yeah. Well,
iPhone.
hence, that was a good decision. I was supposed to see him yesterday. I went, I don't know what happened. It was like, it was
Hello,
almost like I
whoever's
got
talking in
depressed.
your room. Hello.
Okay, I don't get
Hello.
Oh, God.
Hello?
I've been one time after I think Spencer was born, I was depressed and I went to a psychologist and or a psychiatrist and they put me on
I think it's the one that's lit.
and yeah, that lasted about a week. No, I
Oh, good thinking, Tracy.
We were on the verge.
We were about to get some personal information we didn't want. Okie dokie. Well, you know, I mean, we're all interconnected. We're all right. The result of generating compassion.
Yes. Sorry about that, everyone.
Is that in our mind we feel close to those who we were compassionate towards. We feel no gap because we have total exposure to that person or being. It's not just people. The very act of compassion brings us close to them. And because of that, we feel an openness in our mind, a transparency in our mind. And this creates lots of peace and joy in our mind. So compassion and interdependence is going to bring us more joy rather than the other way around. It's not like we're giving something away, we're gaining something. In contrast, for example, when we have jealousy towards someone who we consider as say a classmate or a friend, at that moment, when we have the jealousy, we just check. If we generate jealousy toward the other person, the very act of generating jealousy creates a gap between us. And this can happen with people who are very close. They get competitive, and it's a kind of jealousy. And that competitiveness creates a gap between you and the person who you're close to. All of a sudden, you're competing. So this is important to think about this. Immediately, it creates some distance between us, and then suspicion or doubt arises, along with an unhappy kind of feeling. This is very important. When we study dependent origination or dependent arising, and how it is related to our own well-being and the well-being of others, we can develop lots of interest in our mind. All of a sudden, this becomes the study of emptiness, the study of interdependence becomes the study of well-being. How do we, this is going to make me happy. So then we develop a lot of interest in studying emptiness. It's not just some difficult academic thing that you can't wrap your mind around. It's something about that's related directly to our own well-being, ours and everyone else. And that's what could be better than that. So we can develop lots of interest in our mind about emptiness and dependent origination, and it keeps our mind more and more focused on it. Otherwise, it could be like reading a book about some subject or just listening to a talk about it, but with only having an academic interest in it. It never works. It's like when we pass the examination, many of us will say, okay, now I have a degree and I can get a job. So it just becomes about what's in it for me in a very self-centered way. And this never helps. With dependent origination, we should study it and listen to teachings, think about it, and meditate. Meditate means familiarize. However we do that, we familiarize ourselves with what we've been studying and thinking about. And we compare what we've learned with our own experience or our own perspective. The study of dependent origination is itself divided into 3 categories. Now we go to Buddhism's favorite thing, listing. Well, there's no other way to do it. The first category is dependent origination in terms of cause and effect. Dependent origination in terms of cause and effect. Every school of Buddhist tenets, from Vaibhashika all the way up to Prasangika Madhyamika, accepts this type of dependent origination, cause and effect. We study many levels of this. When we feel angry, we check, why do I feel angry? A few minutes ago, I was happy. Why? Then we check the cause and condition. Shantideva said, when you feel pain or suffering in your mind, at that time, be careful. At that moment, you are ready to feel unhappiness. So when we feel pain or suffering in our mind, be careful. We're about to feel unhappy. Anger always arises from some sort of unpleasant feeling. We may just be feeling frustration, and then anger comes. Oh my goodness, how I've noticed this myself. I mean, I stubbed my toe on a stump, and the next thing you do, the F's are flying everywhere, you know? And it's just like, wow, look at this. Look at the anger I have just about stubbing my toe on a stump. So at that moment, we check, why are we feeling angry? I tried to get something and I can't, so I feel angry. Then we should be patient. It's impossible to get each and everything we wish to get in this world. For example, say we're trying to get to the airport in 1 hour, but we can't because of the traffic. And then we feel angry and frustrated. Just like us, other people are on the road feeling frustrated and angry in similar ways because of the traffic. One car here is going somewhere, and one car there is going somewhere else. And every person in each car wants to get where they're going at the appointed time. So if we think like this with a different perspective, we can learn how to reduce our inner negative emotion or negative behavior and thinking. So in this way, with our own day-to-day experience in our own life, we can learn to work with dependent origination in terms of cause and effect. So what he's pointing to is when we experience, some problem, whatever it may be, that's causing us to feel frustrated or angry or upset or whatever it may be, we recognize that problem has arisen due to various causes and conditions. And there are many, many, many other beings in the world who are experiencing a very similar kind of problem due to similar kinds of causes and conditions. And then to sort of feel, well, it's not just about me. Everybody has to experience this. I can sort of chill a little bit about this and just continue working on the path, continue working with generating the causes and conditions that will transform those, rather than getting, frustrated, getting all red in the face, kicking your foot on the stump, and then hurting your toe, and stuff like that. Also, sometimes we experience happiness in our world. For example, a student gets the first position in an examination, the highest grade in the class. At first, the student is very happy. And then the next day, the student thinks, this time I got the first position in my class, but next year, someone else may get the highest position. In this way, the student's own thinking is the cause for their happiness to change into some sort of stress or problem. This kind of happiness is unstable because we don't combine our happiness or effort with philosophical thinking. We always should combine our happiness with philosophical thinking. Not just, oh boy, great, everything's going my way, I'm happy. Think philosophically about it. Think along the lines of the Dharma. If our day-to-day life's thinking is combined together with Dharma thinking, and then some problem arises, we'll be able to handle it. We'll be able to handle it and suppress the problem because we will already be qualified to challenge and face the problem. The Dharma gives us the tools to do this. What else are the 10 perfections about, or the 6 perfections about? What else is the 8 world? What are the 8 worldly dharmas? What else? Why else would the Buddha give us those teachings? These are tools to help us recognize what it is we're doing and what we can do to turn it around. So Dharma teachings always, always help us to face problems confidently and courageously. We should not be scared to face our problems when we have the Dharma as a tool. The second level or category of dependent origination, that was dependent origination in terms of cause and effect. The second level or category is dependent origination in terms of the part and the whole. Part and whole. This is also very important. In one family, if we check with each member, some are very, very capable. For example, and this is Geshe Nima talking, in my family, in Geshe Nima's family, there are 3 siblings, 2 sisters, and myself, Geshe Nima. Among the 3 of us, 1 is very capable, and 2 are very incapable. Sometimes the parents appreciate the capable child and make a division or a discrimination. So this can create a problem within the family. To live happily and harmoniously, we look at the whole family as one. The basic idea of Buddhism is that we should look at everyone as the same. The whole family of the world. We should look at everyone as the same because we all want happiness and don't want suffering. Everyone wants happiness and no one wants suffering. That's how we're the same. At this level, regardless of whether we're capable or incapable, we are the same. All are the same value. This is another important thing for us to keep at the front of our mind right now. We're all the same in that we all want to be happy and we don't want to suffer. We just go about it in different ways, sometimes because we're confused and don't know how to do it, or we have a really wrong idea. But we should not, what is the thing? We should not hate the actor, it's the action. So we need to think of it, we need to think of this whole thing like a family, like a family. All have the same value. All want to be happy, they don't want to suffer. Then, through the interdependent, dependent arising perspective, we look at each and every one as the same. If we learn to live this way within the family level, happily and peacefully, then we can spread this way of living to our neighbors, to our country, and then to the whole world. So this is very important. Within the family, if we create an atmosphere of peace and harmony, then we think each and every part shares in this. If the family is composed of 5 family members, the leader of that family looks at each member in an equal way, in a compassionate way, a friendly way. And this creates a genuine family with genuine family members. This is what we learn through dependent origination in terms of the part and the whole. So it starts with us. It starts with our close relationships, our families, and then it spreads out. This is our task right now. It always is, but very important right now. Don't succumb to the clash of the titans going on. Think of it as family and as a active member, or even like thinking of yourself as the parent, because we're the parent of the family that we're seeing, right? Think of and act in that way. Act in that way.
So maybe this is an inappropriate question, but in our family,
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily our big family, but our our small
Mhm.
individual family. If I understand what Geshe Nima is saying, it's that, you know, we ought to look at all of these people who has wanting to be happy, that we care for them as individuals and sentient beings, but we don't necessarily have to agree with the actions that they undertake. And that somehow, if you do that, that will lead to a family that has, I'm not sure the right word, has cares for each other and is okay with each other. But what if you have an individual in the family who just refuses to adopt that principle?
Well, you can love them and you can care for them, but if there's nothing that you do, if they're insistent upon being
Divisive.
I guess disruptive or divisive, then there's not much one can do. Try to keep them from harming themselves and harming others. I mean, we've all experienced this in families.
Yeah.
We all know what that's like, and there's only so much you can do. I mean, even the Buddha can't change us. The Buddha can show us how to.
Right.
So I think what we do is we try to demonstrate through our own actions, our own
Through our
behavior,
practice.
you know, what the practice is. And maybe that person will see that. I remember my sister used to ask, you know, Kavita and I, how come you can be so happy? How come you can be so peaceful? And we would tell her, but that's not what she thought she knew the direction she needed to take for her particular situation. So she wasn't ready really to listen, but she would go, what is it you're doing? You know, tell me. Even the day before she died, she was asking Kavita, what is it? You know, so you just keep trying. You just keep trying to be genuine
In a way,
yourself.
that teaching seems to be suited the most when, you know, in the situation you're describing, it's the most relevant.
Yeah.
It's all nice to think that everybody's just gonna fall in line and get aligned and comply with this idea, but it's most applicable. I mean, that teaching to me seems to be talking about when, regardless, it's just, it's not even that we're looking for a change in the outward behavior.
No, but we are
something out, yeah.
I think we're looking to genuinely love one another and help in ways we can. Yeah.
And we think, you know, we have all this, and we think we have an answer for someone else's happiness, but they're also continuing, as you were talking about football, their continuation, and if they don't understand, you know, I think that all the chaos in the world, everything is about people wanting to be happy, and they just think that it requires certain things, you know.
Of course. What else is it, right?
Drugs or anger.
Whatever, yeah.
No, and I guess that's the best way for us to look at that. You know.
Exactly. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Well, and then, you know, they don't even realize the divisiveness that they're not only creating the negative karma for themselves because of their divisive behavior, they're spreading their divisive behavior to their spouses and so on and so forth. Then that division is like, well, I don't want to have disharmony in my home, so I have to go along with what my spouse is thinking, which then, you know, spreads like a bit of a cancer to the family.
Right.
So ultimately, you just have to continue to independently love everybody, and, you know, just independently love and care for them. Like you said earlier, separate the actor and the action.
Because the only thing we actually can control is our own.
Exactly.
Our own
and
behavior.
so what we do is like you said, you know, we just exhibit through our own actions love and compassion towards everyone in our family. You know, and
that's true. You know, I think
multiple holidays.
We have the opportunity. I know this occurred with my sister. We have the opportunity to be able to alleviate a lot of the guilt someone feels because of their behavior if we just say it's okay. It's not, that hasn't affected me. You haven't hurt me the way you think.
Right.
You know. And by our actions we can help with that.
But that's communication.
Yeah.
Which doesn't happen all the time.
Well,
Right,
but it's a communication with tools.
Right,
Understanding,
right.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
if you ever watch an intervention,
Yeah.
Yeah.
when you're dealing with someone with substance abuse,
Right,
that person's got to dry out first or whatever before
they can
they even
start
understand the
first
love that's
step.
in that room is
Yeah.
there for a reason because they do love that person.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're thinking they're being put upon rather than receiving it. 'Cause
Yeah,
They
yeah.
can't.
They can't
It's
see
a
clearly
hard-
at the time, yeah.
Yeah, whenever we work from the ego, the self-grasping, self-centered me, it's never going to go well. And usually when someone's in that deep a situation, it's really they've turned in on themselves, and so we have to be aware of that and not come back at them from the ego for our own ego.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So that's a way we can help.
The world is in pain.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
And that's the way to think about the world too. I mean, not retaliate from an ego center. Get angry at what's going on in the world from our ego, but like, well, how do we help? How can we help this?
And a lot of this is stemmed out of fear and ignorance.
Sure, of course.
Not knowing.
Yeah.
And so they make assumptions, they're fearful, they then respond to their fear, and then it goes from there.
It escalates like crazy.
It's all based in fear and ignorance.
Okay, now we go to the third level or category. And this is dependent origination in terms of thought and the basis of labeling or the basis of designation.
Do you mind just for a minute? The first one was.
The first one was
Cause
cause and effect. The second was dependent origination in terms of the part and the whole, where we talked about family. And then this third one is dependent origination in terms of thought and the basis of labeling or the basis of designation. For instance, all phenomena that we see are the basis of labeling. This is the basis of labeling in a Yeti cup. This is the base. So there are three of these levels, and this is the most important one. This is the one that can undo the whole problem if we can understand it correctly. So I'll say it again. Dependent origination in terms of thought, and the basis of labeling. We can also call this level dependent origination in terms of conceptual thought and phenomena. Because phenomena serve as the basis of labeling and designating by conceptual thought. So this thing here serves as the basis for me to label it iPhone. My conceptual thought is iPhone. This is what this is. It's the basis of the label. It only exists as the label.
Right.
So Geshe Nima says, I think that this phrasing of it works better. Dependent origination in terms of conceptual thought and phenomena. This is the deepest one. This is close to emptiness. When we think of dependent origination in terms of conceptual thought and phenomena, everything in our life we consider bad and good, or friend and enemy, these are all just labeled on the basis of some characteristic. For example, then he had a cup and he called it a mug. We thought he was saying mug. So, for example, I call this object that holds my hot water mug. If as a group we decided to call this computer, then instead of asking for a mug of hot water, I would say, please bring me a computer of hot water. Everything follows our thought. Thought creates each and everything, good and bad. There is no independent existence in our world. Everything is dependent on our thought. So what he's saying is we could easily call this anything.
Mhm.
We could label it anything we wanted to label it. It's not we label it based on what we think it is. To us.
And that particular label has been based on all preceding labels about our thought and concept of some sort of a vessel
Mhm.
that holds liquid.
Mhm, mhm.
But different from a pot, because it's a personal vessel,
Right.
then there's the concept of personal,
Right.
Like
You'll
all
never find the beginning of it.
labels
You will find that it's
one-
connected to everything.
that one particular label, it
Yeah.
keeps it warm, it keeps it cold, like all of these labels and attributes that we assign
Right.
to it,
Yeah. It's amazing how quickly our mind
Yeah. Oh, that's enough.
adjusts.
Yeah. Along
I have a question. So we can label it whatever we want to, but we have to agree on labels.
Excellent. That is the right point,
Absolutely.
Claudia. That's we have to agree on it.
That's the.
We have to. Otherwise,
when
then
they-
we're just crazy.
Yeah, when they talk about conventional reality, the reason they use reality.
Yeah.
In the terms of conventional and reality paired, because that's exactly what they're
Right.
saying is.
So yeah, this conventionally, we agree. It's a conventional agreement that this is a thermostat cup.
Well, and when you look
Yeah.
at marketing too, and something new comes out that we
Labeling.
don't know,
Mhm.
right? Then we are shown and told, and here's a picture, and this is what it's called, and then over
Right.
time the community goes, oh, well, that's what I saw that somewhere. That's what this is called,
Right.
and then it kind of spreads out to society. That's what this is. That's what we are calling this.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
An interesting one to me, just as a slide, the thing that we call Kleenex.
Yeah.
Kleenex is actually a brand name.
Exactly.
It's a company. But that brand name became so associated with facial tissue that we do not call it facial tissue.
Right.
We call it Kleenex.
And actually in Germany, Kleenex are paper towels.
Are they? Well, there you go. It must be the same company made the paper towels, right?
Same company, but with paper tissue and not call it Kleenex.
Yeah.
We're also bound, it's like the collective agreement
Conventional,
has
yeah.
limitations because of our limitations, and so we're bound by it. And
Yes.
we were doing those practices with you when we were staring at cups and
Mhm.
unlabeling.
Yeah.
So when we learn to, like I do this silliest practice of, like, if I'm out walking, I'll look at trees and I'll name them giraffes. Or I just, not really, but I'll just think of it, and it brings a wonder in, but it loosens whatever limitation, or there's a practice when you walk of doing morning walks, of just noticing things, but not naming them. Or like there's a beautiful tree, take away the beautiful, there's a tree, or and just taking in the phenomena without the labels, kind of
The labels make
gets
it
us out of the
complacent.
habit of the limitation. And we all need, we need to have agreements on,
But what a great practice that is.
It's a beautiful
Yeah.
practice.
Just sort of loosen that all
It
up.
loosens it, and it's real easy because the mind kind of likes little tricks like that, it's just,
Yeah.
it's like a game.
It's like a game, but it's a very interesting game. It's something that would be beneficial in this kind of a path.
Yes.
Because we have to loosen up some of the tight grip we have on
Yeah.
things in order to be able to.
It makes it easy because those trees are not giraffes. So it's not like you're trying to, do this heavy thing. You
Right.
just kind of do little mind things that
Yeah.
it loosens.
Yeah,
There's
that's
a little bit.
It's totally on this track. It's just something that came up in the last week for me. A relabeling, that I think as practitioners, I'm gonna share it because I think for all of us, it's not hard to do. At all, and is very stabilizing. I've found it to be very stabilizing, and it's a relabeling of the churning happening with humans and other beings perhaps on our planet. And I think about it in terms of in the context of our solar system and the galaxies and the potentiality of all the sentient life on throughout the realm, we're, as I mentioned earlier, very karmically connected with the beings that are here now in this planet Earth. The relabeling is, oh, just like me, they're all on a spiritual journey ultimately seeking ultimate happiness, which according to this path we would call Buddha's practice or Dharma practice or a practice. So instead of looking out at the confusion and chaos of the world as a big problem and how is this ever, this is awful and these bad people doing this and these bad people doing that and nuclear wars and this and that, I am finding an incredibly, not only, it's not even just a placebo effect, it's a fact. We're all here. And the label, I've reassigned the label to beings working towards enlightenment, consciously or unconsciously. If they're so karmically connected to me to be here now, and we're all in this mandala, then it has to be. It has to be. So to relabel it instead of a fucked up world, it's wow. Yeah. What a great.
It's a world where everyone wants to be happy. They don't want to suffer, and we're all trying to figure out.
And we're all trying to get there, and it's a shitstorm, and isn't it amazing?
Yeah. It's amazing shitstorm.
I mean, there is not, as a practitioner, I'm just gonna say this, and you know how I get, but as a practitioner, if you really consider yourself a genuine practitioner, there is no other option but to come to that conclusion. And I say that very heartfelt. If you just examine everything that Christopher's saying, everything we've been taught, there is no other conclusion to come to.
Okay. Everything is dependent on our thought. That's quite a sentence. Everything is dependent on our thought. For example, in the US, we use the English language as a medium of communicating. And using that medium of communicating, the inventor of some product will give it a name in English. Like Kleenex, is that English?
Yeah.
Then we identify that product by the name it was given. In this case, the product I'm holding in my hand is called mug. Whether or not the word mug expresses the meaning of the object I am holding depends on my mind. Not somebody else's. It's what we think of it. It depends on my mind. Similarly, with each and every word, it is the same thing. In Buddhist epistemology, we study this. That's the study of knowledge. In Buddhist epistemology, we study this. For some people, the sun is called moon. And for some people in another place, the moon is called sun. People use different words to identify the same phenomenon. It's very, very strange. A bad omen for one person or group of people is a good omen for another person or group of people. This is really true.
Yeah. This in the US is the peace sign. In British, in England, it's the middle finger sign.
Right.
So we can be saying peace man, meanwhile we're flipping off everybody in England. You know? I mean, it's just literally just that simple.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
That means the bad omen and the good omen don't exist independently or intrinsically. They don't exist independently or intrinsically. They just follow our own thought. Because I'm not from England. I see this and think, victory, for victory, not you. So it's following our own thought. This is what he just said.
Right.
We have to really think about this as clearly as we can. Aryadeva, a Madhyamaka philosopher and a disciple of Nagarjuna, said, if there is thought, everything exists. If there is no thought, nothing exists. If there is thought, everything exists. If there is no thought, nothing exists.
Or can you have a consciousness without thought?
You can't have a consciousness without experience. So I don't know about conceptual thought. I think you can have a consciousness without a conceptual thought, but you can't have a consciousness that is not aware or is not experienced, and it's not a consciousness. So so if there's no awareness, then there's no consciousness. If there's awareness, there's consciousness. And then when you get into the world of existing, what we call existing things, then it without thought, it doesn't exist.
So, if you, all right, you just said that you can't have a consciousness without awareness.
Consciousness, by definition, is aware.
Right.
So, I guess what I'm wondering about is, because we're talking about labeling conventional agreement on labels for certain things. And I'm thinking about, computers and AI and where we're going with that, and whether all of this still represents labels of one kind or another versus developing some sort of awareness and in the computer sense, or awareness in actually the real sense, but through a computer. And maybe I'm having a hard time articulating this clearly. But people are arguing about whether computers will develop consciousness or sentience.
Like the AI would develop its understanding that it exists.
Right. So, but are we just fooling ourselves because we're kind of labeling this AI and sentience incorrectly from a consciousness standpoint?
Buddhism would say we're fooling ourselves because AI is a very mechanistic process, and AI requires lots of input, and it can only right now AI can only glean from what's out there in the the cloud or the internet or whatever. It can only glean its information from there. It is not a conscious aware being. It is a mechanistic process. Now, the only way that could become conscious is if a vehicle was developed, such as a human body, that has the capacity for consciousness to become embodied in it. So if there was a vehicle that had part AI, part human body, that a consciousness could actually enter, then that could be possible, but the AI itself would not be conscious. It would be the consciousness within the body. For instance, when we die and the consciousness leaves, there's no consciousness in the body. The body's not the conscious thing. It's the consciousness that's within the body.
It's within it.
There, cut off my, hand, and you can't say that the consciousness is in the hand anymore. And for many people, when they lose their arm, they still feel consciousness of the arm there, not in the arm, but where the energetic consciousness
There's an energetic
was.
blueprint of
Right.
the human being's body. So when the limb is missing, the energetic
They still feel
blueprint is still
it's
there.
still there.
Yeah.
Right.
That
So
has
that's
not been removed. Yeah.
So from a Buddhist standpoint of view, no. Mechanistic AI is never going to be conscious, never is going to be aware of itself and its relation to the world around it.
Right.
But it could be if there was like I said, some kind of body that was part human, part any kind of body that a consciousness could come into, animal, and that the animal then had a little chip that had AI in it. Then you could say the AI is part of that, but the AI itself is not the conscious thing. That's what Buddhism would say.
It's sort of, to me, it's kind of an interesting problem because in addition to Brian's point in this question that we've, but there's a similar point about that consciousness. We still really don't exactly know what we're talking about when we just use the term consciousness. And,
Well, we
in
always have
terms
to
of
define our
Western
terms.
Science,
Yeah.
in terms of Western science, when we say the word consciousness, for example, there's this, I can't remember her name, but this consciousness person that you were watching that
Annika Harris.
that I think Arthur referred you to. But in any case, there's this like a major debate which came first, phenomena other than consciousness or consciousness and then all phenomena.
Right. Did consciousness arise out of phenomena?
Yeah, which came first, consciousness or phenomena?
Yeah.
Kind of like.
Yeah.
And so there's this big fork in the road. Does consciousness arise from?
Yeah, and
phenomena?
that's what current neuroscientists are
But
looking
there's
into.
an equal number of that's no, consciousness is. And so then, because that's sort of, if it was mechanistic, I guess you could think that why wouldn't the computer chips have the same, carrying capacity as our biological chips, But if you go with the assumption that consciousness is, I don't know,
Consciousness is one of those things
it's
like
kind of
matter or
interesting, I
energy.
think that's sort of a.
They're
Because and also, so it's sort of a what do we?
The current debate out there is consciousness part of the fundamental building of the universe. Oh well, you don't mess with Honey Girl.
No, all poor little Molly did was walk by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just don't
Right.
even mess with Honey Girl.
Yeah.
Watching her the whole time.
Okay. So we'll probably have to wrap it up here. Let me see.
There were no puppies hurt.
So, okay. Aryadeva said, if there is thought, everything exists. If there is no thought, nothing exists. This is amazing and very difficult for our mind to grasp. So Geshe Nima is acknowledging that it's very difficult for our mind to grasp this. If we learn about emptiness, then we think in this way. And whatever appears to us, we label with our mind. And through that, it's very easy for us to control our negative impulses because we're labeling everything. The reason that a negative impulse arises is because something we have labeled as a trigger for us to get angry or whatever it may be, has arisen. If we change how we label it, the way we, it's no longer a trigger, then we can change the negative impulses that we have. So that's quite a statement. Mm-hmm. So thinking in this way, we learn about dependent origination in terms of thought and phenomena, or thought and object. So I think probably I'll leave it there, and if we have any more discussion in the last few minutes, or we could just go to closing prayers. But I think it's what he just said here is really something to think about. I mean, really think about. If we learn about emptiness and we think in this way, that whatever appears to us, we label with our mind, well, then through that, because of that, it's very easy for us to control our negative impulses. I mean, it's an amazing thing he has said here. If we learn about emptiness, and then we think along the lines of emptiness, and whatever appears to us, we realize we're labeling that thing with our mind, then it becomes very easy for us to control our negative impulses, because we recognize we're the ones doing it. It's not coming at us. We're the ones that are generating it to be the trigger for us. And we can change how we label it. We can change how we label it. And that is amazing. And we should try that out. I would suggest trying that out.
This is why this
Yeah.
exercise that I came up with
Yeah.
of labeling the chaos as sentient beings working towards happiness and liberation and enlightenment.
Right. It's just how we label it.
It completely de-escalates my.
If we look at the current situation in the world and label it as growth, you know, a birth is always, you know, can be very chaotic, painful, you know.
Yeah.
And this is a birth.
An
Yeah.
experience we've all
You know?
had, I'm pretty sure, with an addict, either an alcoholic or a drug addict, especially when they're in recovery, we understand that, and I'll just take a close friend of ours as an example. They've turned to us when they fell off the wagon, and in the context of working towards recovery. But they fell off the wagon. This has happened, and it does happen, and it's part of the recovery. So if we think of us as a humankind as in recovery, and I mean, we have to find some way to
Yeah.
not contribute to the negativity of anger.
Because we are addicted to something.
We're all addicted.
Everybody's
Rabina
addicted.
said,
Addiction is
we're
not
all
something we
addicts.
want to do.
I mean,
We're here in this.
being here in samsara is an addict's paradise.
Yeah, we're all addicted.
Yeah, we're all addicted.
But I just, this labeling thing is.
It's big. It's really huge. I mean, he's saying this is the most important aspect of these three aspects of dependent arising is that we label things by thought.
Do the walk, just take a 5-minute
Right.
walk sometime and either.
Giraffes!
Look at all those giraffes out there. Damn.
Flowers or just non-naming,
Yeah.
just.
Right.
It's just-
Yeah, that's a very good way to just
To say, that's just empty.
clear the Etch-a-Sketch board. Just don't
Yeah.
name it.
Yeah.
What that person said, what that person looks like, what that person did to me physically,
Right.
what happened is empty of.
Yeah. The problem is we lock one another into our perceptions of each other.
Yeah.
You know, and we need to
It is
let
kind
it
of
go.
how I get through the day though.
Yeah.
It's like an addict is awakening.
Mhm.
Yeah,
An addict is awakening.
But as we become harder, the more if we want, it's almost like if we want it to be hard, we can make it hard and we can think, oh, well,
Okay,
what
it's
about
time.
nuclear bombs?
Yeah.
But the same thinking is applied.
Well, you know, as Geshe Nima often said to us, don't worry if the planet blows up. There are many other planets in this universe that you could be born into.
And to put it in the context of this idea that we're all intimately tied to each other in this globe right now, well, we'll all keep going. Whoever you have karmic connections with, we have a funny way that we think.
Well, I mean, the best we can say, the best I can say is, we shall see.
We shall see.
Yeah.
Well, and
In the meantime, this is working for me.
Yeah. Thank you.
How do you want?
we're just gonna do this top guru dedication, the first one.
The first one.
And again, calling to mind all the close beings that are together here in this world, experiencing this evolution and striving. May in all my
My
rebirths,
rebirths.
may I never be separated from perfect spiritual masters and enjoy their magnificent. Completing all qualities of the state of the past, may I quickly achieve the state of Vajradhara. Do want to just interrupt for a moment. It's good to, I have found it helpful, and so I'll share this. It's good to remember that when we say and enjoy the magnificent Dharma, we're not talking about Buddhism. We're talking about the magnificent, revealing to us nature of reality and what is actually going on in the context of wishing to be non-harming and only helping.
Yeah.
Just to, because we're talking all our rebirths may not look exactly like Gelugpa Buddhism.
Well, we're past, so we should.
Completing all the qualities of may anyone who merely
Merely
sees,
sees,
hears, remembers, touches, or talks to me be instantly freed from suffering and abide in happiness forever. It is only from the kindness of my Guru that I have met the peerless teachings of the Buddha. Thus I dedicate all merit so that all sentient beings in the future may be guided by kind words.
Okay. Thank you. So we will continue with this next time.
Nice.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for all the conversation. It's really good to have it, and we should take the time we want.
Thank you, Vinegro and Molly, for your.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I will stop the recording
I
now.
see her go in and then I saw Vinegro.